All right, going to give you my instant reaction to the Broncos' Week 1 loss in Seattle. Obviously frustrating for Broncos fans, but like I've said in previous videos, this is a young team. There's going to be growing pains, whether they get off to a great start and work through some growing pains in the middle of the year or get off to a terrible start but are better off by the end of the year. Whatever projection that this team is going to go on, there were going to be growing pains. And it appeared that they already have some growing pains to go through, especially for Bo Nix, which, let's face it, he had some growing pains today. I mean, let's just talk about it. He had 42 pass attempts. He only had 138 passing yards. Didn't have a great passer rating. I don't think that's all his fault, but he definitely doesn't get a pass for today. I mean, he struggled. He struggled mightily. He had 2 picks. He could have had 5. He had underthrown balls. He had more balls that hit the ground or just more short passes. Just wasn't good throwing the ball deep down the field. I mean, there's no way around that. But I'm going to explain why it's not necessarily his fault. I think the offensive line was average at best today. Had some good moments, but definitely allowed the pressure to get to Nix at some times. Not in the form of sacks, but forcing him to sort of get out of his mechanics and have those underthrows or nearly picked off passes. I think that's sort of the role that the offensive line played. And I blame Sean Payton for part of this as well, because he did not stick to his game plan in trying to run the football. They didn't run the ball consistently enough, and they had moments where they had good gains on the run, but they just didn't stick with it. They forced Bo Nix to throw 42 times against some Mike Macdonald defense in Week 1 on the road in Seattle. That's just not going to work when you're trying to win a football game. I mean, Mike Macdonald throws one look at you before the snap, and then there's a completely different defensive play call by the time the ball is snapped. You have to make it easy for Bo Nix, and you have to establish a run game so Bo Nix can get into that play action game and really find the easy reads to get comfortable in the pocket. And Sean Payton didn't do that. So I think that's where Sean Payton let him down. His receivers let him down when Courtland Sutton and Josh Reynolds are dropping passes in the first half. Julian McLaughlin had a fumble in the third quarter, which completely changed the momentum of the game. And overall, I think the Broncos' offensive weapons and O-line really didn't help Nix, but certainly Bo Nix didn't help himself by making some of the decisions that he made. I think he threw in a triple coverage once, which might have been one of his picks. But again, the Broncos' offense, there were going to be growing pains with a young rookie quarterback. Let's not beat him up too much, but there's a lot of work to do. But let's get to the defense now. Great start with the sack and then the pick. I mean, that you couldn't have asked for a better start if you're a Broncos fan, because, you know, this defense was probably the big question mark from last year, and they showed that they were better on the defensive front in the first half. They got pressure on Geno Smith. They were good on the run for about 18 minutes, 20 minutes of the first half. And then the Geno Smith long run for a touchdown when they were in man coverage and no one was watching him. And then in the second half, when Seattle made adjustments on their old line and really got into more an up-tempo offense and started to pick apart the Broncos on the ground and through the air, that's where the Broncos' run defense became a question. When teams got into more up-tempo, can they stop the momentum of an offense? And they just weren't able to through about the 20 minutes after halftime and beginning into the fourth quarter. 2 safeties, I mean, that's a positive for the Broncos defense. One through a sack and then one stopping the running back in the end zone. I mean, there's some ups and downs on both sides, but I think you got to be a little more encouraged with the defense with the fact that they got constant pressure on Geno Smith all day when they got him out of sync and didn't get into an up-tempo rhythm. Offensively, again, there's going to be growing pains. Let's just all take a deep breath, because Bo Nix is not a bust. He showed his moments, especially on the last drive with a couple great throws and a run for a touchdown to get the Broncos within 6. He's a rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams didn't even have 100 passing yards in his first game. Let's just all take a deep breath. There's a lot to improve on, but like I said, when you've got a young team, there's going to be a lot of growing pains to go through and a lot of figuring out to do when it comes to figuring out the identity of this team. The coaching's got to be better. Sean Payton's got to be a better offensive play caller to help out his quarterback. And overall, the Broncos just got to continue to chop away at getting better offensively and then cleaning some stuff up defensively.